Oh wow, I've already hit the record button, but I can't believe I'm actually doing this. I want to welcome you here to our private space. Thank you for joining me. This is actually my first trial for a podcast ever in my life, but it feels like a way overdue trial for me. And I'm so excited to have you here with me today. This is a special day for two reasons. The first being that today is my birthday. So I'm officially 35 years old now, and it really feels like a turning point. It feels like my life has reached a state where I need to become the most authentic and real version of me. So I'm starting this now because I want to be sharing experiences that shape my point of view, authentic conversations I had with friends over the years about queer intimacy that not only helped me become who I am, but also showcase that there is a lot to be learned and to be discovered when we are all here together. This is, by the way, not a self-help podcast. It doesn't want to be. This is an open dialogue. This is a journey of self-growth and also my readiness to explore the mess in betweens. But before we get into the details, I think it would be relevant for me to share my origin current, which is the island of Cyprus in Europe. And I would like to invite you to think that we're next to each other, having a casual chat, introducing ourselves. And now I'm going to be sharing a bit more about my origins. I'm Chrysanthos Konstantinidis, or Santhos, if you know me in Spain. And this is my very first podcast. Imagine a small island at the farther end of the Mediterranean Sea, with warm weather, sometimes unbearable to be honest. People who enjoy a simple living and also are genuine, but also are very self-protective because our society has taught us that nothing comes good out of oversharing in life. We also, as Cypriots, like to think of ourselves as very important, and this is because we are also surrounded by so much natural beauty that makes us feel like the center of the world. I grew up in the center of the island at the capital city, Nicosia, but my summers were made by camping at the beach, visiting Paphos, where my grandparents had a holiday home. They still do. And imagine spending the summers there with them, enjoying local fruits, the warm weather, the beach, the sea, diving, fishing, just being ourselves in the sand, playing with our colleagues. There is also, though, another aspect that shaped me, and that is the cultural conservatives. We never or almost never talked about sexuality. Our conversations around intimacy were coded, at least in my family, but from my conversations with my friends around Cyprus, this it happens more often than not. And this is why, especially in the queer realm, our friends are more than important in understanding our self of belonging and being able to shape our realities in a way that makes sense. But going back a bit into my teenage years, I can remember that my early attractions to men were kept private, and I wouldn't say just private. They were actually blocked. I remember that without even realizing. I kept myself, I couldn't even admit to myself that I was secretly attracted to men. This, of course, came to shape my adulthood relationships later on. And somehow this carried on into some hidden relationships that were most of the times unhealthy with some toxic traits. But this is for us to discuss a bit later as we unfold and as we get to know each other better. In general, what shaped my later years and the entrance into the 30s was the need to get rid of the suppressed feeling of not being able to express myself and the need for authenticity. And this is when I took the step to move to Barcelona at 31 years old. This is where I am right now, by the way. And this happened quite fast. I will be sharing more about the story of how I made the decision to move here. But moving into Barcelona actually felt like stepping into a new world. A world where I could be sharing my sexuality openly. I had to, and I'm still learning on how to flirt in public, but furthermore being open and letting others in. And this is because my upbringing and the cultural oppression when it came to same-sex relationship and queer expression in Cyprus didn't necessarily equip me with the skills of being able to navigate this freedom and this acceptance. What struck me, especially initially when I joined here, is that I was accepted without explanation. In the first friends that I met at work, in a bar, at the streets, people were able to express themselves, showcase their affection to one another. And I was also part of this reality where I just could be myself. Later, a few days later, came the parties, which felt liberating in many ways. But I would say that it was also something started creeping in my realizations, and that was that these parties were very liberating, but most of the times they also had a heavily sexualized aspect, which we might be talking about in a future episode. And I've been in Barcelona for 4 years now, since I'm now 35. And something that I would say that is my realization to date is that openness doesn't necessarily mean emotional connection. If I would have to contrast, as an early contrast, because I believe that we'll have the time to deep dive into these realizations of Barcelona to Cyprus, I would say that Cyprus felt an island of closed energy, but because of that closed energy, I was able to create deep bonds and friendships that are part of my being, part of my reality. These friends are friends for life. They know my whole story. They've been present in most of my moments, and they've been supporting me even from a distance. We still meet to date, we keep in touch, and this is a blessing. On the other hand, I would say that Barcelona allows you to be visible, but this visibility doesn't necessarily mean deep bonds, because this visibility also creates a stage for shallow connections or more transactional connections, which sometimes inhibit the ability to build these bonds, or these bonds might take more time. I don't even have the answers for this. I'm still searching for them as we speak. Now, because of this journey, and I've been through many steps in the recent 4 years, and of course, even more steps in my previous year, prior life in Cyprus, which feels like a second self right now, I would say that this podcast exists to explore the in-betweens. And I wouldn't say that it's here to give perfect answers, because I don't have the answers. But I'm sure that many of you have felt in some stages of your life that we are experiencing a shedding of our old self. We're getting rid of fears. We're getting rid of limitations. we are re-establishing our world view. And this is something that happened to me when I moved to Barcelona, but also is constantly happening as we speak. And what I've recently noted is that my desire changes. What happens when attraction changes and you're not attracted to a heavily curated, perfect body or an Instagram feed? What happens when club isn't the only space to build connections, to build intimacy? And also, what happens when you go from a place of scarcity to a place of abundance, especially in the digital lovers realm? And I'm talking about the different relationship apps where we are able to either find casual relationships or try to simulate getting to know one person. Imagine when you are suddenly dropped in a full all-you-can-eat buffet. What might happen to you, to your attention, to your focus? What happens when you want depth? Because this is what you've been craving your whole life, in a more performative environment, in an environment that cherishes appearances, cherishes visibility rather than depth. What happens when the club scene no longer excites you? And how do we navigate and shortlist this endless supply of online possibilities of people? These are the answers that I don't have, and I would be more than happy to embark in a journey with you to try to uncover this together. So I would like to thank you for joining on the first episode, and thank you for celebrating my birthday and rebirth with me today. It's really a very special day for me, and I'm super excited to be here. On the second episode, I would like us to start discovering and dismantling the myth of the perfect body when it comes to aesthetic goals, heavily curated feeds, 6 or 8 packs, amazing bodies that we might not be able to reach or that are heavily photoshopped. And just how shifting our mindset from aesthetic goals to actual strength, vitality and health might make our relationship we have with our body and with fitness much healthier. If you like this first episode and you'd like to start uncovering the topics I'd love to be discussing with you, feel free to hit subscribe, share this podcast with your friends, or even send some comments and feedback, because that's a purpose here. It's for us to connect, to share opinions, and to learn from one another. And I'm super excited to be on this journey with you. This is where the current begins, and this current includes all of us. I'm Chrysanthos Konstantinidis, and I'm grateful you've shared this moment with me. Thank you, and see you at the next one.